Hi everyone and welcome to New Bear. Today we're going to look at Josephine knots. And Josephine knots are very tiny rings. They're made as a throne ring and add a gorgeous decorative element to our tatting. Josephine knots can be small and compact, or they can be full and fluffy. I'm going to show you how to do both types of the Josephine. I'm also going to show you a slight change we can make to the chain, which helps our ring sit nicely. So the Josephine knot is made by using only 1/2 of the double stitch. Both of these rings have a count of 12. You can use either the first half or the second half. Personally, I find the second half is easier to work with. My thread doesn't twist as much and I prefer the look that I get from using the second half. We're going to make the small Josephine first. I've got the first half of my chain and we're ready to start our ring. Our setup is exactly the same as when we do a normal throne ring. There's a link in the description box which will take you to a video on throne rings if you need help with that technique. We're going to make 12 half stitches using the second half of the double stitch. We need our first stitch to be pulled in right up close to our chain. We can continue on with our half stitches. So keep your tension slightly looser than normal, but make sure it's consistent so that the height of your stitches are the same. If our stitches aren't even, we get varying widths throughout our ring, which means we won't have a nice rounded shape. And I've lost count, but that's about 12. Now sometimes I post my shuttle when I'm working on a normal ring and sometimes I don't. It depends on what I'm making and how my ring is behaving. When I'm working a Josephine knot, I always post my shuttle. That means I post from the front through the back and pull my ring closed. I find that posting helps to keep the last couple of stitches from rolling in and it gives me a better shape at the base of my ring. So whether you post or not is completely up to you. We finish out our chain. And that is our small Josephine knot. If you find that your ring is sitting away from your chain, I'll just pull mine up a little bit. If you've got something like this, a gap between your ring and your chain, when we're making the second half of our chain, we can add an extra half stitch. Pull that stitch right in under your ring and then continue with your normal stitches. The extra half stitch will help the ring to sit better on top of the chain. It just brings everything together. So you can see we've eliminated any gaps. For a softer, fuller Josephine knot, we increase the height of our stitch. So the width that you want your finished Josephine knot to be will help you gauge how high to make your stitches. A higher stitch means a wider ring. Once again, it's important to keep your stitches consistent. In saying that, our first stitch needs to be pulled all the way down to butt up against the chain. If our first stitch is high, I'm going to exaggerate this so you can see it. We can pull over to meet the chain, but because the stitch is a loop over the core thread, the height of that loop is the amount it's going to pull away from the chain. So you'll end up with something like this. So we need to make our first stitch and snug it in against the chain, and now add height to your stitches. If you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I always use picot gauge. You can use picot gauges here, but honestly I find it easier to just eyeball it. I find that I don't have enough fingers to hold my stitches and hold my gauge and successfully move the stitch over, so it usually doesn't end well. When you have your stitches, post your shuttle, hold everything in the pinch and close your ring. Set your hand up to finish out your chain. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.